a lot of the things that I do, a lot of what I talk about is happiness, about maintaining happiness, being happy. And there's something that I don't mention when it comes to happiness. And that's, our rabbis say, and I'm going to show you where it's from, but they say that undoing uncertainty is something that can bring happiness. When you have clarity, or the lack of clarity will make you very unhappy, but when you have clarity, it's like, whoosh. And the biggest proof is with kids. If you look at little kids, they're just beaming with joy. The minute you look at them, they're smiling. The only time they're sad is if they're hungry, or there's three things. Hungry, I should know this by now. Hungry, poop, and burp, right? Digest, so they see, he knows better than me. He's going to be a great dad. So those are the three reasons why a baby will cry. Otherwise, there's no reason why the baby should cry, unless sometimes there's, other things like colic, or, just the system of the baby, it's new, so it's like adapting to the air, whatever. But what I wanted to say was that even children, they're just beaming with joy. But at a certain point, they start getting sad. And that's when people tell them, you can't do it. Right? When people start telling them in school, or their friends, or people that know them, or their parents, they break down their ambitions. So a child has this great wish to, be a fireman one day, which is normally what Abraham or any boy would say. And then someone says, "No, you're not going to be." So it's that, "No, you're not going to be that. That's not going to happen for you. That's not going to happen for you. That's not in your nah." And slowly but surely, there's an uncertainty in the mind of the child, which makes the child say, "Okay, that's not going to work," and that's a shift in the happiness of the child. So it says this in multiple areas in the Torah, but it's directly written like this. It says like this: Me'or enayim yesamach lev. When somebody opens his eyes, it can actually, or at least gets light into his eyes, it can actually make your heart happy. One of the reasons, just naturally, right? You live in the rain, right? One day of rain. I was making a joke today. I said in England, we forget to take out our coat because it rains all the time. So we're going to wear it again. It's like I wear this every day. Forget it. We walked without coats in the rain. It rains every day there. In LA, people forget to take out the coat because they don't know where they kept it from the last year. Right? How true is that? So we look, one day of rain, and how has it affected your happiness? Okay, he's going to say he's been so happy. He's been happy.
Refilling the water source. Thank God there's rain.
You see, no.
The commute sucks.
You're all saying reasons to find happiness in the rain. Right? You're all saying reasons to be happy in the rain.
The worst thing about the rain is the commute. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, but you're finding reasons to be happy in the rain. Trust me, if you live in England, you'll say to yourself, wait a second. I know that the world needs rain, but is it really true? That's what I used to say. I used to say, really, is it true? It can't be. England's giving enough rain for the whole world. We had one day of rain, and we're still busy fixing the house, so we've still got to put gutters in our house. So just one day of rain, and like there's one spot where just rain is gushing down. It's like that's England all year. So you say to yourself, okay, wait a second. Okay, fine, California has sun, but England's making up for it. We make up all the rain. So obviously it's not true, but I'm just saying. It's okay to stay positive in one day of rain and find the joy in it. But when the cloud is over you, and they've done studies on this, a place where it's always cloudy and grey and it's gloomy, that's how the people are eventually affected too. It affects the people as well. It's just, I know.
I to go run in the rain.
Huh?
I was joking.
Why did I go running in the rain? I don't get it.
Can you say that again?
Yeah, I didn't get it either. I said I like running in the rain.
Likes running in the rain, okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is the statement that it says in Mishlei in Proverbs. Me'or enayim yesamach lev. When somebody has light to his eyes, his heart gets filled with happiness. It doesn't mean only light from the sun, although that's also one thing, but it also means clarity. How do I know? Because this is what the commentaries say. They say, Ki en ba'olam simcha. There's nothing in the world like joy, like the joy of undoing an uncertainty. Now, I know of somebody that had to go for a serious check, thinking that there was a scan, that there was something wrong with his body. And that he's only got, something really wrong. He's really sick. And he was nervous. But he told me the day after that scan, or immediately when he was told that everything's fine, he was filled with joy. Because there was a moment before that where there was uncertainty. People get very happy where something's about to be taken away from them and then they get it back. That makes you happy. When somebody gets very happy when you think that your life is in danger and then you're saved. Right? That's why we get a thrill from doing things like jumping off a plane, or some people.
Finding your wallet.
Or drinking like an amount of alcohol that's enough to fuel a car, and still after a fast day. I know somebody after a fast day. He told me every time after the fast day, after Yom Kippur, Tisha B'Av, I have a nice shot of whiskey and I'm good to go. I'm like, what? That makes no sense. It's like the hangover thing. You know that one? You drink to get rid of the hangover. Anyway, makes no sense. You need water. That's what it is. It's all water. So it says, if you have light in the eyes, you're happy inside. Which means that if you have clarity, when there's uncertainty, you're not happy. When you have clarity, you're happy. And it's a very important thing. That's why I believe, and that's why it says, Pikudei Hashem Yisharim Mesamchei Lev. It's those that study the Torah of Hashem, they start getting happy. Why? Okay, this might be an argument that you may not agree with, but this is what it says. And why? Why is that this belief? Because I'm pursuing truth. When I'm pursuing truth in any given situation, so I'm getting to the point of clarity. It makes me happy to watch something that clarifies things for me. It makes me happy to learn about something that makes things more clear for me in certain areas of life. Clarity is a key to happiness, and that's why learning every day is important. I'll tell you one more thing. That's why it's important to always have objective opinions. Sometimes getting an objective opinion will make you confused.
How do you have objective opinions?
But having an objective opinion, that's a good question. Through somebody else. Receiving an objective opinion. It was badly said.
You mean an informed opinion?
A well-grounded, informed opinion that's objective, that you're not subjective to. So meaning that they're not subjective to you. Meaning, let's say you are questioning your own date, right? And you're like saying to yourself, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm doing this. I'm dating this person for a year. And I know that right now I'm in this place where I don't want to break up, but I do need to break up. And it can't continue. And I'm wasting my time and her time. And I'm in this place. So what should I do?
Stay with her.
Enjoy the time.
Stay with her. And if you remain in a place of uncertainty, you will slowly steep into a place of sadness. Being in a place of unsure is not... Somebody today told me that I told my job I want to quit. I want to quit my job. I said to him, why do you want to quit your job? So he said, that's what I told them. I want to quit. Why? Because they're not paying me enough. I wasn't happy. They offered him a bigger pay. A much nicer salary. So I said to him, okay, that's great that they're offering you a much nicer salary, but will it now give you more clarity? Meaning, just because more money is coming, if they're still treating you like dirt, And if the job doesn't make you feel good, then what is it going to help? The money isn't going to necessarily fill the void of feeling like I'm in a place which is not making me happy.
But all
Right?
the
The uncertainty.
stuff you can do after work with that new money will make you happy.
Okay, that's something to think about. But one thing's for sure. You need to consider, is it worth the extra money for the uncertainty that you're going to remain into? Right? There's a lot of times, it's like this in the Jewish slave, right? There's this concept in Judaism of Eved Ivri, when someone is so poor, or he's caught stealing, a different type of case, where he's caught stealing, and the way that we make him pay the money back, he's got no money to pay. He's caught stealing, so what do? We say, okay, you become his servant. You serve this person, you work for him. And this person works for this owner for 6 years, and he says, okay, I've been working for 6 years, but I want to stay even more. What does that seem like? That's like us in life. I'm comfortable where I am. I'm not so happy where I am, but I'm getting my income, I'm getting my years, I'm getting my money, I'm getting my, I'm going to start having the headache of looking somewhere else. So I'm comfortable where I am, so I'll stay where I am. It's almost like the servant that's... Now, I'm not saying that somebody shouldn't be content. Being content is something that's very, very good, and that's part of being happy. But being in a place where deep down it's hurting, and you're only there because of an outside factor that's pushing you, that's not necessarily it's not necessarily a good thing, then maybe you can be ambitious and go somewhere else. Okay? So this is something to think about in general, but this is the example of uncertainty and having clarity to make sure that the decision that I make, whatever it is going to be the right decision, even if I know I'm putting myself into a place of more uncertainty. Right? I don't know if this helps you. But let's say, give you an example, and this is what our rabbi is saying, and this is where I'm actually getting this all from. By the way, this statement that I read in Proverbs, which says, getting clarity in your eyes makes you happy in the heart. It says, Shmu'a tova tedashen atzem. Also says that good news makes your bones go wider. Okay, good news makes you feel, right? It's like, oh, yeah, there you go. Good news is when you're relaxed, everything kind of like fits better. You're more released, you're more, right? You're more, things feel better, right? Shmu'a tova tedashen atzem. Good news makes your bones wider, makes them more, it affects your actual body. Right? It fills you. It can satiate you just by the good. So it's important to know that having clarity is something which is very important. If somebody asks me what's the most important thing when it comes to dating and confirming somebody that you really want to marry, is can you see yourself in a clear path? Now, that doesn't mean that do you have clarity in terms of living with that person till 100 years, like how much money you're going to make for the next 10 years and how, but do you have some kind of path? Is there some kind of clarity in the path of life that you're taking? If there is, then you can know that you're ready to take on the leap of marriage. Because there is always a leap, and there needs to be an element of clarity. Now, sometimes people just dive straight in without any clarity at all. But clarity in terms of, for instance, work. Okay, it doesn't mean that you have to have a major job and a major income, but some kind of clarity of how you can make an income or how things can work. Or it doesn't need to be that you have to have a fancy, huge home. But some kind of path of clarity is something which is really important to making you feel that the decisions you're making is good, and also to be happy in your life as well in general. This is something that everyone should work on, not just the now, but also just having this sense of clarity of what I'm meant to be doing. It's an amazing feeling. There's another discussion which we could sit down on, which is working on knowing how to have clarity in my life itself, not just in my career, but in life itself. Like, what's my energy? Sitting and working out, what is my energy that I'm good at? What is the void in the world, and how can I fill it? Outside of my career and within my career as well. And that would really give me that sense of clarity that I'm using myself to its fullest potential, and I'm happy with the path that I'm taking in my life, and I see a vision in that path. The people that are happy have somewhat of a vision. The people that start getting sad is because their vision is being crushed by someone. By the way, in Hebrew, the word for uncertainty is Amalek, right? Safek. By the way, in Hebrew, in the Torah, there's no such word as sure or uncertain. That's only in Aramaic. It's used in the Talmudical language. Vadai, right? You speak Hebrew. Vadai is baru is clear. It doesn't mean for sure, because when I say I'm uncertain about something, or I'm sure about, for sure it's true. Either it's true or it's not. What does it mean? For sure it's true. Or I'm uncertain whether it's true or not. Either it's not true or it is true. In the Torah itself, in the Bible, there's no such word for sure or unsure, because everything is either sure or unsure. There's no Hebrew word for that. Very interesting.
What about bitachon?
Bitachon means trust. Separate point to being, right? Truth is truth. And sheker is sheker, but there's no in-between language.
So when you say you're sure, don't you say lo batuach? Like,
that's modern Hebrew, is the language that we use in modern Hebrew, which is lo batuach, not trust. Batuach comes from the word betach, boteach. Batuach is modern Hebrew, which is like using that word of betach, right? Batuach or liftoach means to trust, but it doesn't actually come from the word of the word that the Talmud, that the rabbis use is safek and vadai. But if you look biblically, there's no word actually in the Torah which uses the word of sure or unsure, because either it is or it isn't. There's no uncertainty. Uncertainty comes from the word of Amalek, which is the people that always try to stop the Jews from their path. Right? That's the story of the Jews, right? They got the Torah, and who were the first people to stop them on their path? Amalek. Ashekorcha baderech, it says. They try to cool you off on the way. What does the rabbi say? It's like somebody who's about to jump in a very hot springs, right? Or a hot bath. And they say, oh my gosh, this thing is so hot. And then one guy comes in, he's like, I'll do it first. He jumps straight in, and what happens? Because that person jumped in, it cools down for everybody else. So that's what happened with Amalek. They were the ones that said, the Jews, what they had or the story that they say isn't so true. We can cool them off, right? And that's the nation of Amalek. Till Purim, which is the holiday that's coming up, after Chanukah, is the main holiday that comes up, is Purim, which represents the story of Amalek, which is the story of bringing uncertainty into the Jewish people. That's literally what Haman did. He took lots to say that everything is luck. Right? What did he do? He said, I'm going to decide what day the Jews need to be killed. Not God, I'm going to decide. And what did he do? He took lots. It's interesting that the Jews also take lots, right? A lottery to make decisions. Because we say, no, there's no such thing as a coincidence. Haman was saying, a coincidence is everything to do with me and nothing to do with God. And we say, no, a coincidence is nothing to do with us and only to do with God. Anyway, it's another whole discussion. Yes?
So in Hebrew, I don't know if this is biblically, if this is what they did in biblical times, but playing lots is playing duking, right? You know what those are?
The Jewish people played lots to decide different ideas within the tribes. Okay? And they were real. Meaning, according to us, when we play lots, there's no such thing as a coincidence. Yeah, if you think about it, there's times where I think there's somebody who won the lottery. There's a case of someone who won the lottery 3 times. You heard about this guy? 3 times he won the lottery. Hey, wait a second. So he's thinking, for sure, I'm hitting the right. I'm doing something right. It's my jacket that I'm wearing. You know, the lucky jacket.
He rigged it. He paid the guy.
Oh, okay, fine. It's the places that the world think that there's coincidence. That's exactly the place that we see God the most.
Thank you.
Right. If anybody wants to see in their life good, is don't just think that good comes your way by luck. Look out for it and say, there is no luck. And then you'll see that the good is coming your way just because you looked for it.
It's because God loves me.
Yes, that is the concept. There's a choice. You can either look at everything and there's a choice. You can either look at everything in life as a coincidence, or you could look at everything in life as a miracle. And I'd rather look at it as a miracle. Okay, so this is the language that Rabbi Gamliel says, kind of off topic, but it's to do with what we were talking about. We're on Mishnah 16 of Pirkei Avot. We're learning Pirkei Avot, and this is what Rabbi Gamliel, one of the great rabbis, a son of Hillel and Shammai. Oops, the baby's crying. The son of Hillel and Shammai. This is what he said. He said, it splits always three things, but he said, make for yourself a master. And remove, by doing that, you'll remove from yourself uncertainty. The language of what we're talking about. Rav Ashi, the Talmud says that there's a rabbi, that whenever it was his own personal thing, let's say there was meat, and he wasn't sure if it was kosher or not, because there's certain times where there's an animal which is questionable, like if it was sick before you slaughtered it, or there was a part of the animal that was ruptured before you slaughtered it, it comes not kosher. It has to be complete. Right? So, Rabbi Ashi, a great rabbi in the Talmud who knew everything inside out, whenever he came to his own personal food, hey, I'm biased. I don't want to decide on my own. So he would take the animal to many other people and ask them, do you think this is considered kosher? I can't rely on my own judgment. Why? Because I'm biased. This is what it's saying. Aseh lecharav. Have an outside objective opinion. It could be a therapist, it could be a rabbi, it could be a friend. But somebody that's going to be objective, that can guide you, v'histalek min hasafek, and remove you from uncertainty. And by the way, that master could be the Torah too. It could be the guidance of the wisdom of the Torah. It could be the wisdom of our family, our parents. People that know, that are objective, v'histalek min hasafek, and remove from yourself the uncertainty. This is key to helping whether it comes to dating, whether it comes to any questions in life, any uncertainty. When I rely on myself, then I'm biased. And my own judgment a lot of times takes me to the wrong place. That's why it's so important to learn every day. Every day we must learn, especially about the topics that are within our life story. Right? I wouldn't say that people here should learn about how to buy a good stroller for their baby, because you're not in that place yet. But I definitely believe that people should be learning and buying as many books as possible on how to make sure that your dating situation is going in the right way. Right? That's definitely important, because that's what everyone's doing. Okay, so that's what he says. And then he finally says at the end, Fa'al tarbeh la'aser omadot. He says at the end, don't guess when it comes to tithing. Now, this is a very important concept. This is a belief in Judaism, and then we'll move on to the next topic. But it's a belief in Judaism that when a person tithes, you can test God in this area. It says, Bechuni bezot. We just learned this in the Talmud in Ta'anit. It says, test me, God says, test me with this. With what? With giving charity. If a person's able to give a tenth, by the way, the word for 10 in Hebrew is Eser. It's very similar to a word which is Osher, Ashir, wealth. How come? What's the connection?
Same root.
A same root, because the rabbis teach us Aser Kadei Shetit Asher. Give a tenth in order that you will become a tenth. You'll become wealthy. Okay, so the key to being wealth is tithing your money to charity. That means that a person should at least try as much as he can, at least of the money that you actually use. Not maybe some people say, okay, if I tithe before I even put it in my rent, they're not going to have much left. But at least the money that you have left, tithe it, and you will see b'chuni bezot. God says, test me. Give a tenth this month and see if it's any different than the month before. You want to test God, see if Judaism's real? I'm not sure if Judaism's real. It's made up stuff. Test in tithing. It's the one area that actually in Judaism we stand up for and we say you should test God in it. There's other areas, well, it's a test, it's free will. But there's one area that you can test God, and that's tithing. And there's many, many cases and stories of people that do this. They start tithing, they look at their bank account, it starts going up. Oh. Now, it doesn't necessarily only work directly in the form of cash. It doesn't always work it can work in the form of Bitcoin. But it will work somehow. You will see it's an investment. Anyone here wants to make good money? It's an investment. B'chuni bezot. Test me, God says. Give a tithing, and you will, it sounds like a hiding. Give a tithe, and you will get the money back as well.
But I invested in lit coins.
Okay.
You don't need to use lit.
If it's making you money, tithing.
You need to give rent from everything you made, or after you have left, after you paid rent and everything, so you have left the sum. So
It's a big question. People say like this. This is what a big rabbi once told me. He asked me a good question. He says, when it comes to tithing, is it from everything you earn, or is it after you've given rent? It's a good question. And I've actually spoken to a very big rabbi. He says to me like this: whatever you do, it's within your judgment. If you can't survive because you're putting your money in your rent and you only left, LA rent, let's say, is very different than rent in New Jersey, right? So if you can't survive when you tithe, before you even, so then obviously that's not what we're talking about. It's within your own judgment, but one thing's for sure: 1/10 of something should be given. Okay, whether it's the 1/10 of the entire amount or 1/10 of the money that after you've given rent. Okay, so, and you've looked at your general costs and say, okay, here's 1/10 that I'm going to give to charity. That is a good thing to do. And you can test God in it, and you'll see that the money will come back to you in tenfold. Okay, you give 1/10, you will become wealthy. This is, so what did he say here, by the way? He says, don't guess. Don't say, oh, I made around 3,000 this month, 2,000, I don't know. I'll give 30, 300, I'll give this amount, right? Make the calculation exactly based on how much you made. Be accurate with the money. Okay, if it's about with the rent, so you add the rent as well, and you say, okay, take out the rent. Okay, I made actually 2,000 this month, so then you do it that way. But you, to the point. Tithe to the point. That's what he says, and that's a good thing, and you can test God with it. It's an investment, yes.
Doesn't matter who you give the money to.
No, you can give it to your friend.
It's charity. It's charity.
Charity.
Think about it like
It doesn't matter if it's Goy or Jewish or
Look,
to a good cause.
to a good cause. It says, Aniyecha kodmin. It does say that those that are closest to you are first. A person should not give money to let's say, you have a brother that needs money, and you give it to your friend that's living a few doors away. Here's some cash. Here, take it whilst your brother's starving. It's not something that should be done, and that can be turned against you. So the Torah actually gives, you see, charity can be very evil also, right? Because you could say, you could bribe people. You know how kids were in school? I'm going to give you because you're my friend, right? And that one's not going to get anything. So there's this.
That's still how it works with some people.
Right, but there is a concept. I've told this story before of a great rabbi that once knocked on someone's door. First someone came to him and says, "Hey, Rabbi, I have no money. I'm 5 kids, and we lost our business, and I don't know how to survive. I don't know what I'm going to do." And the rabbi says, "What do you mean? You have a brother who's doing so well. He can't help you? I know him so well. He can't help you." So the rabbi says, the brother says, "No, don't ask him. We don't talk business. We're brothers, but we don't talk money or anything to do. I don't talk to him about money." So the rabbi immediately gets up late at night and he says, "I'm going to him right now." He goes to him, knocks on his door, and this brother opens the door, looks, "Rabbi, what are you doing at this time? Please come in. Anything you need. Beautiful house. Come sit down. Anything you want. What do you want?" He says, "Yes, there's somebody. I came especially at this time because there's somebody that needs your help very badly. He's desperate." "Who? I'll write a check. Here's my checkbook. Whatever amount. How much does he need?" He says he needs a nice amount. He's having a very hard time. "Who is it?" it's your own brother. And he mentioned, embarrassed, but he writes the check to his own brother. There's a lot of times that we think of giving charity to everybody else before giving charity to our own, right? We've been kind to everybody else. It's easier because it looks good on us. Okay, so there is a concept of giving charity to those that are closer to you. There's also a concept of not only giving charity to those that are close to you. So that's another thing. Meaning somebody who only cares for his own is like the chasida. There's a certain type of bird that the Torah says is non-kosher. Why? It's called a chasida. What is it? It's an animal, it's a bird that only cares for its own, neglects everything else.
Those are the birds that deliver babies, right?
Yeah. So they only care for their own birds, and anyone else's bird they throw off. They let them go, and they, even if it's, they throw them off the cliff. They are, I don't know what they're called in English, but the chasida comes from the word chesed. It's too kind to its own, and then ignores everybody else. So there is a case, right? Yeah, charity needs to be balanced. If it's not done in the right way, it can be cruel. That's something that needs to be thought about. But in general, this is the idea. Somebody who wants to test God, test him with giving charity. It's a good investment spiritually, and you can see the results from it. Let's continue, because I do want to talk about the next thing, which is very important, which is about silence. Shimon, the son of Rabbi Gamliel, would say, all my days I lived amongst scholars. That's when he says all my days, he means even when I was young. And today, whilst I'm the leading rabbi of the Jewish people at his time. He says, even when I was young and now, I always said that I've never found good for the body. V'lo matzati laguf tov ela shtika. Nothing as good for the body as silence. What? The best thing that you could do for your health is keeping your mouth quiet. And then he says, V'lo hamidrash hu ikar ela maaseh. Study is not the main thing, action is more important. Speaking is not as powerful as action. Action is, what's the way that we say it? Actions speak louder than words, right? And then he says, V'chol hamarbeh dvarim. Someone who speaks too much will eventually fall to sin. He starts speaking, he'll make the worst, make mistakes. But I want to come to the point that he said that I didn't find good for the body as much as silence. And the question is like this: what do you mean it's not good for the body? I would have thought silence is a spiritual thing. You're silent is good for the soul. What does it mean that silence is actually good for your physical body? Why? Anyone got an idea of why silence is good for the body, physically? Yeah.
You can expend a lot of energy in talking.
Okay, energy. Sense spending energy is good for exercise. Eitan, good.
I don't think it works that way.
Why would you say it's bad for the body, for the health? I would say it's good for the...
Well, thank you. No, the more you talk, the higher the higher chances are that you will end up saying Lashon Hara.
Good.
Although that's still a spiritual thing. That's not exactly physical.
Okay, and what's the result physically? It says, Shomer piv u'leshono, shomer miletzarot nafsho. It says somebody guards his mouth and his tongue, saves himself from a lot of anguish on his body and his soul. Mouth and tongue. Why is Lashon Hara bad for the body? It's bad for the soul for sure, but why for the body?
No, it's Lashon unnecessary.
I'm talking about the ones that are not necessary. Yeah.
You're using your body to do the action.
Okay, and why is that going to hurt you? You do a lot of actions with your body. You go to the gym, and that's a lot more action than speaking.
Well, if you're lying to someone, it takes a lot of effort to maintain a lie.
Good. This is the statement. You're good. This is what we're saying. Yes, the repercussions of your words are more painful to your body than anything else. Chayim ve'amavet beyad halashon. Life and death is in the hands of the tongue. As the result of how we speak actually can affect our health tremendously. Well, have you ever heard of cancel culture? Right? You say something, not even speak, but it's the form of speech. You say something online, and boom, that's it, cancelled. Right? Now, I'm not standing up for cancel culture, but I'm just saying how when you say something, and you regret it afterwards, oh, the pain of regret is a pain on the body, not just on the soul.
It's like a lie detector.
Yes.
You measure your heart rate changes.
Yes, yes, it actually affects the body. Yes, someone has a question. Go.
Okay. What about the way you say it? So you might have said something, direct, just clear, but what if you said it in a way that you could perceive as like negative? Maybe you said it, kind of abrasive and rude in a rude fashion.
Right. And what would be the best result? Sometimes whatever you say gets the person offended. And whatever you're going to say, the person will translate it as, oh, how dare he say that? So, and it's not just in our culture, it's also in the place that person's in. Let's say you're going into a mourning house, right? A house of mourning, and someone lost a loved one. You have to be very careful with what you say. Whatever you say, actually, according to Jewish tradition, you're not meant to say anything at all. Wait for them to speak to you first.
Really?
Yes.
Is that the...
That's halakha. That's halakhically correct.
Comfort mourner?
Comfort mourners is to sit down and say, I'm here, and not say anything in terms of that person or the history or what you remember until they ask you to say something. Because it's a very shemet mutar lefanav. It says there's certain times where you're not meant to speak at all, for sure. For instance, someone's angry. Calm down. The guy's like, he's got waving a gun. Chill. It's not going to help. It's just the silence is beauty. This is what it says. This is some wisdom that you could take with you. It says that this is what Ochot Tzadikim, the way of the righteous, says. Before you speak, you are in control of your words. After you speak, your words are in control of you. Think about that for a minute. Hey, before you say something, you are in those words' control. But once you've said it, those words control you. And they can be held against you. Okay? It says like this. Mishlei in Proverbs, he says, Gam evil macharish lechacham yechashev. Even a fool, and evil is not just a fool, it's someone that's really got no clue. Okay?
Wait, what's the word?
Evil. There's ksil and there's evil in biblical language. It says, Gam evil macharish lechacham yechashev. Even a fool that's quiet is considered smart. Meaning, you sit in a room and you're having a meeting, right? And there's one young guy that just came into the new company and has lots of thoughts and ideas and ambitions. And everyone's like, yes, what do you have to say? And he throws out the most ridiculous thought that everyone knows is not going to work because they've all got the experience before. Wait a second. Right? Now, I'm not saying that somebody who's new shouldn't speak out or shouldn't give his ideas, but needs to really think before he does. Because remember, when you speak, that's when they start realizing where you're holding, right? So it's better that you're quiet. We think if I'm quiet, they're going to think I'm stupid. No. If you're quiet, they'll still think you're wise. When you speak, that's when they question, what was that? So it's better the silence than saying, because silence will actually allow them to still think you're wise. Very important concept. Now, it says like this in Shabbat, in the Talmud of Shabbat. Our rabbis say a person should always be offended and not the person that makes someone else offended. I mean, be made offended and don't offend others. Better that way. Shomim chelpatam ve'ena meshivim. They hear people getting angry with them and they don't answer. Osim me'ahava v'simechim be'yisorin. They continue being quiet with love to Hashem, and they're happy with this problem that they're facing. This guy's shouting at them for no reason, and they're still quiet. On them, there's a verse that says, their love for them is like the sun at its strongest energy. You know the sun, it's very strong. That's the love and connection you have with God at that moment. Meaning when we look at the sun and we're like, whoa, that's energy. The energy of somebody, right, that gets offended and keeps quiet is as powerful as the energy of the sun. And our rabbis teach us that at that moment you can get a blessing from that person for anything. So the next time you see someone who gets offended, you go up to him, you say, hey, You got offended. Can you give me a blessing? Yeah. It's like 10
No,
people
but you would
shouting
never
at him.
know.
You
You
never
would
know.
never know because they don't say it.
Well, you see, if they get embarrassed, it says when someone gets embarrassed, it says that person would rather jump into a fire and burn alive than be embarrassed in public.
Isn't that a pride issue though?
Huh? Depends. What are they accusing you of? There's going to be something that if somebody accuses you of that's so disgusting that you will say, I can't believe I'm alive. I don't want to live for another minute. And there's people that it happens to.
Wow.
Right? They accuse somebody of, I don't even want to say, right? And he didn't even do it. There was a guy that just recently, he came out of prison. He was in prison for like 60 years or something, and they came out that he was innocent the whole way through. Did you hear about this story?
No.
60 years?
Not 60, but
Like
30.
10, like 50
No.
years in prison.
A long time, like 30, right? In Milwaukee. Did you hear about this guy? Did you hear about this guy?
No.
Yeah, someone heard about it?
I
It
know
was just last
stories
week.
like that.
2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago.
We went to a speech one time with a guy that was in like prison and it wasn't.
And he was innocent.
Yeah, and he was innocent. It was like a speech that I was actually at and who shared his life story.
Of course. People say to me, I don't believe that statement. Well, it depends what they're telling you. If they're telling you that you went and you did something that was vile and you never did it, oh, that's an embarrassment. It says, Chirpat naval al tasimeni. David used to pray, never let me be in the rebuke of those that are disgusting. It's like when the Palestinians say about the Israelis that they kill and murder kids. Excuse me? We're the exact people that don't do that, and that's what you're calling us? The things that we caused the Holocaust. Excuse me? We had a Holocaust against us, and you're saying that we caused the Holocaust? The exact thing that we suffered, and you're using that language against you, disgusting, vile. Right? How can you lose such a language? There's no words for that. That's what we want. Do you think that's what? That's what David used to say. He used to say, "Chapat navala tasimeni." You say, don't let me even listen to them. Don't let me believe what they're saying, because some people actually believe what they say. That we causing another Holocaust right now. How dare they say such a thing? That we're causing a Holocaust right now. Where people are killed innocently and wiped out, and here we're coming to defend ourselves against rockets that are shot at us. In a country that we've always lived. This is not Zionism right here. This is pure, simple logic Judaism. That 3,000 years that we've been around, 3,300 years that we've been around, Jews have always lived in Israel. There was never a time in Jewish history that a Jew never lived in Israel. You should know that. Rambam brings down that throughout history we've always had someone living. And they say that we, by defending ourselves against rockets that are coming towards us, are causing a Holocaust. Sick. Don't let us, that's the prayer that David used to say. Don't ever let me listen to the words and the language of those evil ones that are the ones themselves that are doing the evil. And then they call us and blame us and then people listen to it and say, yeah, maybe there's truth in their side. Don't listen. That's the prayer of David HaMelech. Yes?
So is that prayer in one of the Psalms?
It's a prayer of David HaMelech in Psalms. I don't remember which Psalms. He said, Chapat naval al tasimeni. Don't let me absorb the rebuke of the Nevalim, the disgusting, evil people that are rebuking me. They say, the Jews, they are you that want to cause a Holocaust are saying that we're causing a Holocaust? It's mind-blowing. Okay.
So,
and I'm sorry if anyone gets offended from me right now, but it's just yeah.
So you said you're able to give a blessing if you are being rebuked by someone who is doing it, who's rebuking you dishonestly.
Yes.
What if they're rebuking you honestly?
Then a person should absorb and listen to that rebuke, and that's also good for you, right? There's a story of my rabbi, Mordechai Eliyahu, who one time he was alone studying he was a Kabbalistic rabbi, next level. He passed away when I was studying in his yeshiva study. 300 rabbis are every year becoming rabbis in this place in Jerusalem. Very, very holy rabbi. He had the vision. He was very close to the Chabad Rebbe. Rav Mordechai Eliyahu. He had the vision of sending Jews around the world and rabbis around the world. There's someone that I know who went to Morocco and different parts of the world, in Russia. And so Rav Mordechai Eliyahu, although I'm not Chabad, we have a very similar vision in terms of what we believe in. So when Rav Mordechai Eliyahu was a young man, he was studying in yeshiva, in the study hall, studying Torah and Kabbalah, and tremendous mind at a very young age. He finished the entire Talmud at like 16 or 15. We're talking about next level. So one time someone came into the older man used to come in to the yeshiva, and he used to test the kids. He used to test them, but he was an old man, and he was like one of these oldies that would give them a hard time. Come on, why didn't you know that? You should know that. He would give them a hard time. And Rav Mordechai Eliyahu was there in the room, and he was giving a hard time to one of the guys in the room. It was late at night. He was giving a hard time to one of the guys in the room, not to my rabbi, to someone else. And that other person said, "Oh, please leave us alone already," or something like that. And that person went off. But in the other room, the head of the yeshiva, the head rabbi, Rav Tzadka, I think it was, of the yeshiva, heard someone being rude to this older man, and he got very upset. So he comes out, he says, "Who?" He sees only Rav Mordechai Eliyahu, my rabbi, sitting on the table, on the chair, studying. He was late at night. He sees only him studying. He said, "That was you speaking to this elderly man? How can you speak to him like this?" And this rabbi told him off for 10 minutes. And the entire 10 minutes, Rav Mordechai Eliyahu kept quiet. He was quiet. He didn't do it. It was someone else that did it. I hope you guys are following. It wasn't him that did it. Someone else did it. And he sat quietly listening to the rebuke of the head rabbi. At the end, the rabbi realized someone else came in the room and said, "No, why are you telling him off? It wasn't him. It was someone else." So the rabbi realized he rebuked this young boy for 10 minutes for no reason. And he said nothing. He said nothing. Rav Mordechai Eliyahu said nothing. So the rabbi said to him, "Why didn't you say," young boy, we're talking about a 15, 16-year-old guy. He says, "Why didn't you say anything?" So he said, "Because I wanted to hear your rebuke. I wanted to absorb in the rebuke, and I wanted your blessings." And the rabbi blessed him. This old elderly rabbi blessed him. But that's just another level, right? Where you hear rebuke of something that you didn't even do wrong. Right? Normally we'll be like, "It's not me." But this is another level. But I'm just saying, when you do something wrong and someone tells you off, it's easy to say, "Hey, shut up, man," you know, and it's much harder to sit down and listen to the guy and actually absorb in. Take it in. Okay, fine. You know what? Take in a punch once in a while. You know, there's a game where they do that, where one guy gives a punch and the other guy gives a punch back, and they see who can last the longest. You know. Yeah. Slapping game. Yeah, they have the slapping contest. So there's take it in like a man. Okay, so that's sometimes rebuke is good and silence is good. There are times where you should speak. That's why, by the way, it says, another thing that it says, I want to finish at some point, but it says that the world hangs on nothing. This is what it says in Job. This was written in our prophets, in the Torah. The world hangs on nothing, 3,000 years ago. Tole eretz al bli ma. In Job chapter 12, you can check it out. It says, the earth hangs on nothing. Whilst throughout history, what did they think? Can't be that the world hangs on nothing. What do you mean it hangs on nothing? There's got to be something underneath. There's maybe some elephants, a turtle, or water, right? There's like a whole... we believed always in Jewish history that the world hangs on nothing. It stands on nothing. And what did our rabbis say? If you change the word around, you'll actually learn something else. It says that the world hangs on nothing. That's scientifically, that's true. But there's another word as well. It says the world hangs on blima, if somebody that doesn't say nothing. The world survives on those that don't say anything. Meaning that's the power of silence. Silence is so powerful in Jewish teaching, and the energy of someone who's silent in a time where he's being embarrassed. That energy is so powerful, it can keep the world standing. That's what we learn. As much as, yes, the earth stands on zero, on its orbit, and doesn't actually need something to hang it up, so too does my language al bli ma, on nothing. It also means on somebody who's bolem piv, who swallows his mouth and doesn't say anything. It's the same language. It says, "En ha'olam mitkayem ele b'shvil mi shebolem et atzmo b'shat meriva." The world keeps standing because of certain people that keep their mouth shut at the times of arguments. As it says, "Tole eretz al bli ma." The earth stands on nothing. Now, there's some times where a person should not be silent. Do you know when? Well, of course.
To speak up, to speak up for someone.
To speak up for someone, here, I'll give you 3, and they would cover them all. First is, if you have a worry in your heart, yasichena, says if you've got a pain in your heart, somebody, let's say, who's mourning, lost a loved one, don't keep quiet, speak it out. Da'aga belevish yasichena, if you've got a pain in your heart, that's the different type of, right? That's not silence that we're talking about. We're talking about silence in front of great scholars, that I'm listening to others, people that are greater than me. That's important. But when, let's say, somebody's suffering, don't keep it inside. Da'aga belevish yasichena. If you have a worry in your heart, speak it out. You'll actually physically take away the pain through speaking. Somebody who lost a loved one, there's nothing more powerful than a shiva home. That's why Judaism has 7 days of mourning, so that you can have a process where there's speaking. People come in, and people keep talking to you and comforting you, and you're like, okay, there is hope in humanity. Life can still go on. I will manage. I will survive. The speaking is such an important part of survival. Not just to a what's it called, a psychologist or a therapist, but even to my friends. Right? Speaking is very important. People that are stuck with COVID-19 and not speaking to anyone, besides to their YouTube videos, that's not good. Or their comments on whatever, that's not good enough. A person needs to speak. It's very healthy to speak in terms of just getting things out. That's very important. So there is a point in speaking when it comes to your own personal pains that you need to remove. Okay? Or 3 things. These 2, the last 2 I'm going to tell you is also brought in Ochot Tzadikim, a very important book which tells me how to be good in life, how to have clarity, like we said, in life. Okay? So the first thing they say is, if someone's rebuking and when someone's doing something bad, and you just walk off, and you know, like, you could stop him. Like a kid. He's like 10 years old, and he's smoking a cigarette. And you know that kid, and you know his dad, and you can stop him. Don't be the good guy that says, it's free world. Let the kid do whatever he wants. No, you know his kid, you care for his dad, you say, hey, dude, you're not a dude yet. Get rid of the cig. Or whatever, right? That's just an example. In England, it might have been more common. In America, it's a cigarette. Or a spliff in American language. Okay. Someone rebuking someone that's doing bad. That's something that you must do. Or someone that's making a mockery of something good. So, you're sitting amongst friends, and they're like, hey, you know that rabbi of... You know? So if he's doing something good and you could stop him, don't let him bring down the atmosphere. You could stop that negative energy and say, actually, you know, I want to stand up for him. I want to stand up for that person. I want to stand up for that guy that's doing good stuff. You know, standing up for good is very important. A person should speak up at that point. Okay? And by the way, he said, all my life, when I was young and when I was old. Not just when I'm young and therefore I should listen to the elderly. But even when I was old. Also David also said, Achat sha'alti me'et Hashem. When I was young, I used to seek God. Ota vakesh. And I still, as I'm old today, I still seek God. Meaning, it's not something that I just want when I'm young, I want it when I'm old as well. Similar concept of Rabbi Shimon used to say, Kol yamai, I wasn't silent. If it's a value throughout my life. It's not a value just when I'm young. And therefore when I'm old, I can speak up instead of everybody else. It's a value when I'm young and when I'm old. This is the power of silence. Anyway, so I wish everyone here clarity, happiness, goodness in all areas of life, and we should only be growing from strength to strength. Our light should shine like the sun, and we should be filled with joy and clarity. Thank you. Are there any questions? Anything?